Welcome to another episode of our 30-day exhibition series. So we've given you interviews, we've given you tactics, and today we're going to look under the hood at how Madre has prepared for its very first exhibition at Automechanika UK. We are doing the same-ish format with touchscreens that will collect data in exchange for that value, so in exchange for that audit or a tour of the V8 CRM. So that will allow us to book meetings on the stand and also gather that customer data and segment it. So I'd say that that's the next thing that we went into, which is we will be asking a select amount of questions on goals, on what type of customer they are, so that we can segment it in our CRM. And then that again goes back to that narrow pain point where we can speak their language automatically through automation. So we have already, ahead of the exhibition, figured out our follow-up sequence and our ICPs, so our ideal customer personas. And the point that you made and the point that you raised earlier was then we've also had our offerings split. So we know that 15,000 workshops or people from workshops, apprentices, whatnot, are coming to Automechanika. So we can't miss them.
Yeah,
they're going to be there. They're going to be at the stand more than exhibitors, of course, because exhibitors are doing their thing. So for that, we have created a narrower offering that we believe can solve their problem. So we've created an adjacent customer persona that will allow us to get those kind of leads and to sell the V8 CRM system to them. So
in addition to any websites or anything that we can host as like a project,
exactly,
as a monthly retainer. Because the thing is, the context to that going into Automechanika, we knew that it was going to be B2B for us, not B2C. So that was the lens that we brought that through with the offerings, is because it's like we can't miss them. Like there's no point. It's like if someone's going to come on the stand, that we can't push them away, because at the end of the day we chose to be there, and in the context of what this event holds, we know that we're going to be met with probably more people than we are exhibitors, because the exhibitors are going to be on their stand busy. Why did we choose those offerings specifically?
So the offering we've gone for is a website as well as the V8 CRM for Life. And a key thing that we've done is we haven't necessarily discounted our services, but instead we've value stacked on the back end about £7,000 worth of genuine value of different services. So what I don't like when people do is devalue their service based on some crazy discount. Instead, I think that it would be better to take the offering that you have and then stack it with as much value as possible for a limited amount of time. So then that way, say if there was kind of a discount, you could take out pieces rather than add them back.
And I think originally our point was, we were originally going to do like day by day, we were going to take things off, and it wasn't until our power hour with Steve and Nicola that they said, I've never spent that much in an exhibition, so why not extend it to like week by week? And then I think that was a really good like touch point, because you know we're in this right now, we're in this cloud, but it's just nice to come up for air in that power hour. And I think it's true, like people need some time to digest, so that's what we've gone in for, with a non-refundable deposit on the day. We can book these projects in, we can book these clients in. The reason for the non-refundable is that it's given us that leeway of like there will be limited spots for us, so it's kind of like a push and pull on that end, so that also we know what our team's capacity will be by the end of it. The people taking the offer knows what they're going to get delivered and what time spot, so it's emphasising all that at the right time.
Yeah, and I think the main thinking around it was that a lot of people will come to an exhibition with either an existing discount or a discount that they just run all year.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel like it's not a discount. You know, it's almost like when people put up their price.
Right now, and that's the thing. There's no immediacy in the purchase, so you've got to make them want to buy that. Then right now.
So that's why I wanted to do something that we've not done before. Like you can check it. It's not, because there's a website called Camel where you can see people put up their prices before Black Friday and then put a 50% discount when they've already upped it by 50%. So there's a lot of skepticism around discounts and around the value that you're actually getting.
Yeah.
So that was something that I thought was important, and something that we do with our clients is when we're looking at the offering, how can we make sure that there's urgency to this, there's value to make it an absolute no-brainer, and then also they know that this is not some gimmicky discount. So that's why with the weeks preceding, yes, the value will get less, and that free added value will get less and less, so that you have a bit more urgency to take it out. And equally, we've also, like you mentioned with Teams capacity, we've capped that. So this isn't like a never-ending offer. It's you get an X amount of these and you can take out that slot if you want to, which again increases urgency. Going back to the audit on the stand though, is, so as I mentioned, we've segmented them. So one will be segmented for the garage owners. The reason that that audit is relevant for them is that they can see that their website's quite bad now and we can replace it.
Yeah.
And then for the B2B automotive suppliers, it's looking at it from a social media and content point of view, which is how you could get more traffic to your website, as well as a website audit, because obviously, as we know, when it comes to SEO, you need to have that up to scratch. So there'll be an SEO audit in there as well. What we have done with that is the information that we are gathering on the day will be segmented into the V8 CRM, and as I've said, we'll have a follow-up sequence. But going beyond that, we've also added in a Telegram feature that when we have the lead come into the system, we then get a Telegram message that just basically says, can you just explain that in 2 seconds?
Differentiate the client who you've spoken to. There could be John Smith.
Exactly.
John Smith too, so.
And that's it, is that a lot of it, you know, on these 3 days, as much as you would like to remember as many people as possible, you don't. And a lot of the follow-up needs to be personalised. So we'll go into automation in a second, but that is a key part. So
I love that though, because initially we didn't think about that. It wasn't until, who mentioned it?
It was our software developer.
Yeah, I think that was just genius, because that's just setting yourself up for success. We're going to be tired, we're going to forget stuff, so to have that immediate like touch point, it's just good to reference.
Well, that's it. And you know, at first it was like, okay, well, after they book on the touch screen, then we can put in notes, but then you're putting in notes in front of and it just seemed loose. So, and that's what's good about the V8 CRM, is that you can automate so much, and it has API access for so many things that you can make it do what you want to do. Yeah.
And I'm learning so much now when it's our own CRM. There's so much to it.
It's real, just like imagination is your limit on that. So that Telegram message will then allow us to segment even further and allow us to then bring up that information inside the conversations. Once we've done that, and that's our kind of audit, we then have the offering for the garages, and then we have the brand strategy audit offering for the B2B automotive suppliers, aftermarket suppliers. And the reason for the brand audit is because the brand strategy is because that's how we start every relationship that we have. As we mentioned, we start every project with the ICP, with the ideal customer personas, then move into that offering, and then move into what the actual plan is. The reason that that is an important offering is because we're not just trying to tie you into something that you don't even know that you need right now. Instead, it's more of the roadmap, and then you can agree whether to work with us or not. In the same way that that's our principle with the free video. It's like, try us out, see if you like us. If you hate us, you can walk away, kind of thing. So,
but this is also something that they can take away and apply to their internal team if they already have a marketing team there. Like, it's not a gimmick to tie you in with us. Like, it's really not. You can have this with another marketing agency. You can do this with whoever's niece down the road.
Once our sales team then know those offerings is when we've gone into sales briefings. So for us specifically, we do know some of the people that we want to target. So it'd be great if our team knew their faces, you know, things like that, which is to greet them at the stand. So there's that aspect, and then also going into those narrow pain points that we're specifically trying to talk about, because as we got from the power hour, is that handing out leaflets can actually be more detrimental than not.
Going into this, I would have assumed that it's just helping out and, you know, like greeting people at the stand, but when they said it's more of a contribution to a loss of a sale, I was like, wait, that makes sense too, because it's like, it's the first touch point. You know, it's their first impression. If that's just going to be a, hey, take a brochure, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. You're going to be like, okay, first off, you don't know your stuff. I don't really know what you guys sell, and I'm also not going to read this brochure because I don't know what it's about. Like, make me interested in it, and the people handing it out just have to be just as qualified than the top people who are manning the stand.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why the sales briefing is so important. And then on top of that sales briefing, because I really just thought that giving out leaflets would
Be nice.
be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that got us thinking. And then second to that is breaking down the sales targets. So sometimes you can go to a stand and be like, okay, we want to sell 25 of X. But what we don't think is then, okay, well, how many conversations do we have to have in order to convert that X?
Yeah.
How many demos do we need to book in order to convert that X? And working those numbers backwards is really important so that at the end of the day, you can split it up between who you have on the stand, which is like, okay, you need 150 conversations, so do you, so do you, so do you. And this is what our conversion rate should look like. You've also got to take into consideration that only a small percentage of that 15,000 actually want what you want.
Yeah.
So you do have a narrower audience than you think. So that's been a key part in the same way that we do it with, say, an ad campaign or organic traffic. We've used that working backwards of the numbers in the same way for the sales and how many conversations we need on the day that can then give us an after action review after either an hour or the day, just that when we're going to that next day, we're a bit fresher than if, we didn't have that target in mind and that goal.
And also discussing internally, like between yourself, between people, between discussions, like what questions working, what questions not, and like having that like huddle in a way to be like, we need to take this out, we need to keep this in.
Exactly.
Like what happened when you asked that? Did they convert? Did they say anything? Did they gasp? All that stuff is tied into it. But having that immediacy and that huddle in the day is like just as important, because if you're going to have the after action review after the day is done, look at the opportunity you're missing in that alone.
It's the same way that when you're doing Facebook ads, you'll first run the messaging. You'll test a load of different messages and then you'll go with the one that got the best results.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here. Exactly, it's the same thing here. And what you wouldn't want to do is go to Automechanika, have this conversation after the exhibition, and then wait 2 years to test out your hypothesis. A lot of marketing and a lot of sales and business in general is a smaller feedback loop. Mm-hmm. So the smaller we can make that feedback loop, the quicker we're going to get gains, because we're going to allow ourselves to adjust as we go.
And this falls into actionable things of having the telegram straight after the notes. Do you know what I mean? Like having that feedback loop tiny into different segments. It doesn't have to be like an actual verbal conversation with the people man and the stand. It's in the automation process as well, and making it easier for you to apply.
Exactly. So once we've done our sales briefing, we've done audits, we've done whatnot. The final piece to our little puzzle is just a follow-up sequence, and like I mentioned, that was done ahead of time. So the audience segments that we've decided on, that each person will go into each bucket, they will then have a relevant follow-up. So have they booked a demo for the V8 CRM? Have they booked in for the website for the garages, or have they booked in for the strategy sessions? Is there a paid deposit or is it a discovery call? So there's a lot of different avenues that somebody can go down, and what you don't want is an email that goes, hi, we spoke at Automechanika, give us a call.
No.
Yeah. And it's like, I've mentioned a million times in the series that 70% of exhibition leads don't get followed up, and when they do, then it can be as bad as that.
Yeah.
And that's quite devastating, because you've paid a lot to be here. So really just take the extra time to say, what is the segmentation of our audience going to look like? How do we get that into our CRM? And then how do we make sure that we are narrowly sending out that personalised automated email? And I'm not talking about hyper personalisation, because that
you got to make it easier for yourself as well.
Exactly.
Make the automation follow off the back of the answers. That's the way to do it.
That's exactly it. With hyper personalisation, what that essentially means is that people will take random data points from an interaction, like this is the school you went to, or this is the uni, and then like pop it into an email. And it just destroys the conversation, because it always feels like, I don't know why you put it in, maybe you're just flexing the fact that you've personalised it. So instead, it's rather a narrow pain point, a narrow message that's relevant and, like you said, back off the conversations that we have had, because your sales team should be having the same conversations over and over again that allows you to have that segment and that follow-up. I would also say that those after-action reviews that you're having at the stand can also then tweak that follow-up sequence. So the follow-up sequence should be segmented, should be narrow, and then likewise, the CRM should also then notify your salespeople and give them a to-do list of when they should reach out themselves.
Doesn't that sound like a dream?
It does. So literally a notification inside the V8 CRM or Salesforce or HubSpot, whatever you're using, to say, okay, here's some of the hot leads that we know that we've had. We know that based on this activity. And then from there, you can have them on the phones and then work their way down the list as the follow-up sequence is already happening and they're being nurtured and they're allowing the open space of conversation without you having to necessarily be in there. Because we know what happens after an exhibition is that the sales guys have now gone back on the road, the marketing team's on to the next one, you know?
Yeah.
And that just means that if you don't do this prior to the show, then it won't get done.
Yeah.
The follow-up sequence is just as important as that initial outreach that you do. Make sure that at the same time you're doing that. So also for the landing pages, you've got the follow-up sequence that comes after the landing page, and then you want it so that if they engage with you at the show, then they go into a different nurture sequence. So just make sure that you've got all of that activity mapping out prior to the show, so that things feel, you know, professional, so that things feel personalised, and so you're not just wasting all of this opportunity, because there's a lot of wastage that can happen at an exhibition, and that should scare you. It should be something that you want to avoid at all costs, and the way to do that is to prep the plan prior to the exhibition and also think of it as a genuine marketing campaign. If I sent out an ad that went to nowhere, I'd be sacked. It would be embarrassing. Like, it's not something that you can't just send out an ad and not have a landing page for it to go to or anything. Yeah, so it just seems crazy, but this is what's happening at exhibitions.
I think back to your point though, is that 70% of leads don't get followed up after an exhibition. Still, 30% is a lot of noise, so what are you doing to stand out? And especially because a lot of people make their minds up about a business within 24 hours after the follow-up. Yeah.
And that's why the kind of offer that we've gone with is that it's something that we can relevantly talk about for a few weeks, because we've down that offer. So for example, the people that don't do that deposit initially, the way that we'll follow up is going to be relevant to the offer and that decrease in value. To the ones that have done the deposit, that'll obviously be a different follow-up sequence. So it's doing that. It's giving, what's your reason for reaching out to me? And that's going to be through the notes that you put in the CRM, the segmentation, and whether or not you can do something with your offer to make it relevant for them to for you to follow up. And I mean, like I think you touched on off camera, is that the impression that you also give with that. Like the impression that you give with a personalised email that is hyper-targeted to me versus a blanket, what looks like a newsletter, is the defining kind of way that I'm going to look at your brand. I'm not going to look at your brand favourably if it's something that I get from New Look every Tuesday because they spam me. It should be
unsubscribed. I think also is that it's a really powerful point for us because it's our selling point. You know, like for us personally.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Do you know what I mean? Like that is the follow-up that we want, but that's what we also sell to our clients. So they can see for themselves what that experience looks like. Because not only are we speaking to them, we need to show them just as much for the people who aren't having like a personalised video and a free video from us on the day. The people who are still in touch, still interested with our product, they get to experience it firsthand. And that's what that will look like with the automation.
And I think the way that B2B suppliers could do that is use case studies. So if you've segmented your audience correctly on the day, a body shop versus an independent garage versus whatever, you can then segment that so that you're giving relevant case studies, which is, I know that you came and you demoed this diagnostic tool. Here's what that looked like for somebody that's exactly the same as you, basically. And I think that that is how you would do a relevant follow-up, is that you could do a lot of these sequences prior to the show because you already have these case studies, they're not new. And then that allows you to then tailor those sales conversations because you know the conversations that's going to come come after.
And what customers they look like for you to reference as well. That's a good point.
So that's our show plan.
Yeah. There you go.
The secret sauce revealed.
Yeah.